All right. Excellent. Very good. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, thank you for everybody coming. This is an informational session. Basically, we are. This is a new home of Chicago Medical Innovations. It's something, hopefully, a real innovations are. We have been working on them for quite a while. It all started in '05, and what led to this is we were able to figure out, I think, a approach for PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Those of you in military and involved in people in military know how horrific of a problem it is, and the choices that exist currently are quite poor. So hopefully this is the beginning of changing thing. Captain Hickey, she's here from San Diego, and they're starting a single-blinded, placebo-controlled study momentarily.
Second outcome of the study, in addition to looking at, in addition to being the first randomized placebo-controlled trial of stellate ganglion block in the treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder, a second outcome is to look at the difference between the treatment of PTSD in combat-related injury versus in non-combat related. Versus non-combat related PTSD, and as Dr. Lipov alluded, there's a very high incidence of that in the active duty military as well.
In military women, it's even worse. The military number is 25% MSA, military sexual assault. Some people argue that closer to 50. And the chance of getting PTSD from that is 100% pretty close. First responders also, 20%, right?
Yes.
Like Oklahoma bombing and things like that. Unfortunately, it just goes on. Tsunami, whatever, terrorism, all of that.
I think much of it is underreported because of the stigma associated with PTSD. My father was a World War II veteran, and my older brother was a combat corpsman in Vietnam. And many of my current friends, colleagues, and my patients have devastating symptoms associated with PTSD, so I'm able to see it on a daily basis. So I'm very excited to go forward with this study, and I'm very grateful for Dr. Lipov's preliminary work, which brought this to our attention.
And we've done it on men and women of military and non-military, and it seems to work across the board. We've had a young lady who was sexually assaulted at 5 years old, and we treated her at 40 years old and helped her. If you think about it, that really ruins people's lives. One of the great things about working with Dr. Hickey is she has the same background as I do, being a pain physician. And we deal with people who have pain issue, physical pain, emotional pain, but it's all, interestingly enough, is the same part of the brain. You can do a functional MRI and say, hey, they have that problem right there, and you can do a scan. You can actually see what the problem is. So this is an exciting time for it. It just happened to be a block you and I have done it for a few years.
This is an exciting time. I have to say that I'm very grateful to the Bureau of Medicine and to Naval Medical Center San Diego for supporting us in doing this study. Right now, just to let you know how committed Navy medicine is to the treatment of PTSD, this is one of over 90 peer-reviewed studies funded by the Bureau of Medicine right now in the investigation of treatments, new and promising treatments for PTSD. This is such a devastating disorder which by recent studies affects between 14 and 35% of those returning from Afghanistan and Iraq.
For the second year in a row, we have lost more troops to suicide than to combat. And that is just, as the president of Operation Support Our Troops, but as the mother of 2 soldiers, that is an unacceptable statistic. And as we all know, current methods are not working. And we need to be open to trying something new and different. And clearly we have something that's making a difference. So we are so proud to support it.
It's a very simple procedure for those who do it. It requires a lot of training to be able to do it with low risk. But that having been said, if you receive that training, then it's a very low risk procedure.
I'm a recipient of the procedure. And I am so grateful that I had it done. Because if I hadn't had it done, I was at the end of my rope. I was ready to commit suicide. The procedure is so simple, and the results is so great. 45 minutes after I'd had the procedure, my wife and my best friend was with me, and they could see the tension release in my face. We was in a restaurant, just simple things. Busboy dropped a tray of dishes. Normally I would have been in the floor or out the door. My wife looked at me and she says, "You didn't even flinch." And I go, "For what?" And I've got to where, believe it or not, a veteran that can walk in and put their back towards the door.
Oh, no.
That was the first night that I had slept in over 20 years, and it was so grateful to Dr. Lipoff for doing the procedure and the pleasure of sleeping. And since then, my wife has got very comfortable of being in the same room with me and sleeping, that I'm not going to destroy the place when I have the nightmares. I came home from Vietnam in 1968. I knew there was something wrong, but I never started taking any kind of counseling or treatment until 1991. And things have since then been going downhill. I was tired of the flashbacks and of all the misery and the everything that I was dealing with inside. So I flew medevac on the hospital flights, so I did not see combat. All I saw was the end results of combat. And I was to the point that I couldn't listen to the news, I couldn't watch TV or nothing, because it would bring me back to my flashbacks. So I am so grateful to him that I took him up on the procedure.
Here to undertake the treatment this afternoon. Really hoping. It's been a hellish road, and I'm really very grateful to you, Doctor, for bringing me out here. I wanted to give you a small token of
Thank you.
my
You're very
appreciation.
kind.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
None of those scripted.
No, not at all. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you. You guys are probably tired of speeches. Thank you very much. Again, at least we're here. We have a beautiful building, and there is a great operating room next door.